wonderful gentleman, self-described, who's in his fitness. And besides being a wonderful gentleman, he also has done some interesting things that I knew in advance. So, Gaurav Rastogi is a Hindu Community Institute dean and a resident faculty member where?
Also at the Hindu Community Institute, yes.
Oh, okay, at the Hindu Community Institute. And Gaurav is also a Hindu interfaith leader and a meditation and yoga leader. So we are honored to have Gaurav Rastogi speak to us today. You're on.
Thank you, Ruth. Marcia, do you mind spotlighting me, or Alan, if you don't mind, just spotlight me as a speaker so it'll just stay on me. And
Can
get
you do that?
spotlight. Let's see. Wonderful. Did we get it? No.
Did that work or not?
No, I'm not. I'm not sensing it.
Okay. I'm not sure. Alan, can you do that? Spotlight? He doesn't know how.
Okay. Just make me co-host now. I'll see what I can do.
Feature, Marcia.
Okay. I'm not sure I do either. What do I go with?
No, no worries. Just make me co-host, and I should be able to spotlight myself.
Oh, sure. I thought I made you co-host. No, I guess I didn't because you said I didn't need to. Okay. Here I am. I'm going to make you co-host. Just give me a second. There we go.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Let me see if I can now spotlight myself. No, cannot spotlight myself on this. Interesting. All right, can you hear me and see me? You can see me. Fantastic. We will switch
A little
over.
bit. I have a little difficulty hearing you.
You have trouble hearing me? Okay. How is now? Is this any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, check. You can hear me. Good. I'll switch over to the nicer camera so that you can actually see me a little better. Namaskar. My name is Gaurav Rastogi, and thank you everyone for joining me. For calling me to speak. I wear a lot of hats, and Ruth described some of those. Being a yogi, some of those hats are twisted and turned around, but I'm a yogi. I'm a meditation teacher, and we also teach. There's a question. So we also teach a course that's building up to a pathway to Hindu chaplaincy. And I'll be telling you a little bit about everything as we go along today. Now, in order to help you follow along with me, I'm going to just have the information pull up on the screen so that you're able to see everything that I'm about to say right on the screen. You're able to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Great. All right, so I'm going to begin by chanting a verse, and if you're Hindu or Indian, you're probably going to get hungry, so please hold your hunger until after the talk. Just sit comfortably, close your eyes. I'll chant, I'll do the chanting. Om Brahmatmanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmena Tena Gantavyam Brahmakarma Samadhinam. Hari Om Tat Sat. You can open your eyes. Now, this is a prayer, a mantra that's usually chanted in many Hindu households before lunch. But its original objective is not lunch. It's actually a verse from one of our sacred scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, and it describes our relationship with the universe. In the verse you're seeing over here, somewhere here, yeah. This verse that you're seeing, where you see the word Brahman, you can just find and replace with the word universe, and you'll understand. The metaphor here is a sacred fire into which you're pouring offerings, and which is a very traditional Hindu worship ritual, which is we have a sacred fire and we pour oblations into it. So it's ghee, which is milk fats, as well as aromatic substances, as well as other offerings. So the offering is poured into the fire as a means of reaching into the higher realms, to the gods. And what this verse describes is is that the universe, if you replace Brahman with universe, you understand that the thing that is pouring into is the universe. The thing that is being poured is the universe. The fire, the consuming energy, is the universe, and everything itself is the universe. You can only reach to the deepest secrets of the universe by understanding our own relationships with the universe, which is the universe is acting through our being. We are the ladle, the thing, like the big spoon that's being held. So we are the energy of the universe is flowing through us and through our food. And the reason we use this as a food mantra is the same thing. To bless the food is understanding the sacred nature of food and the pouring of that food into our own digestive fires as the same ritual as the fire outside and the digestive fires within. There's a deep understanding of food and its relationship to and it's being sacred. Another verse that is often stated is this, which is Annam Brahma Raso Vishnu. You're going to see this verse over here in Sanskrit, written in English script. And then the creative energy, the nourishing energy, food itself is God. That's a very deep and intimate understanding. And a lot of Hindu philosophies about food and nutrition and health are linked to this holistic understanding of the working of the universe, which is that food itself is God. What is food? What you eat becomes you and lives as you tomorrow. And so, therefore, be careful of what you eat because that's who you become. And so, food and cleanliness are core to the Hindu tradition. In fact, I remember even in my household and many Hindu households, one or all meals of the day are first ritually offered to the deity in the temple altar at home before being eaten, because it does a few things. One, you're offering the food back in to the source of everything, which is God. And so you're offering the food first instead of consuming it. You're only consuming the leftover, so to speak. The other thing is, because you're offering it to divinity, you're not going to have stale, leftover, or spicy, or somehow anger-inducing food. You're going to have food which brings calm, which is a state of calm and happiness. And so you prepare fresh food every day, and you prepare a certain kind of food which brings a certain kind of personality out of you. And so this ritual actually helps you maintain, of course, fresh food every day, but also helps you maintain a better mood and a better outlook towards life. And I found it to be a very useful and friendly ritual by that. Now, all of this understanding is encapsulated in the understanding that the true nature of the self, the true nature of self, and the true nature of dis-ease. Dis-ease, I'm using the word by splitting it into two parts, dis and ease. In the Hindu tradition and the yoga tradition, as a yogi, I say, our word for health is swastha. Swa means self, and stha means to be stationed in. And so a lot of countries that are ending with stan, right, like Pakistan and Kazakhstan and so on, the stha means place, to be situated in. So swastha means to be situated in the self. To be situated in the self is the ideal state of being, and our word for health literally is swastha. And like Maria was saying right before me in her talk very eloquently, a lot of diseases that we face today, a majority, possibly 80% of the diseases we face in the world today, you look at diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, a lot of them are driven by this, which is their lifestyle diseases born of the mind, which is mind-borne diseases, which is essentially not that there's something wrong with your mind, but your thoughts are driving your behavior is driving your eating, and your eating and your lifestyle habits are driving your overall outlook towards life, which happens to be essentially disease-prone. And so what is the cure for these lifestyle diseases is to be back stationed in your own self, swastha. And so the word in Sanskrit for health is swastha. And being that the signature disease of our times is lifestyle diseases, one would think that the way to cure those diseases is not merely by consuming um, one cure for headache and one cure for this. Medicines are not necessarily a cure for what is essentially an internal problem. The right way to cure it is to cure the insides through food, through meditation, through sleep, through a better philosophical outlook. And that's how I'm speaking as a yogi. Again, I'm not a health practitioner, but I speak from my perspective as a yogi. So, so what does this mean? How do we return back into our natural state? How do we return back into a state where to misappropriate a scientific term, we're in homeostatic balance. We're not running out of ourselves into experiences, things, and so on. Well, there's a whole science or sciences behind that, and I'll talk you through a few. The first is Ayurveda, which is the holistic science of life. Now, what I told you about the food, there's a lot of uh, encapsulated science which goes into Ayurveda. It divides individuals into three types of body types. I'm not going to get into the details. And depending on who you are, you're either a wind type or a fire type or a fluid type. You eat certain kinds of food, you have a certain kind of lifestyle, and you have certain kind of life outcomes if things are out of balance. And what it does is it tries to balance your tendencies to again bring you back in balance. The other interesting thing about Ayurveda is that it's in sync with not only your inner nature but also the outer nature. It's we go to the stores outside, we buy fruits that are, who knows what the season for those fruits are. We eat everything as we like, but in Ayurveda, there's a lot of detail that goes into, can you eat as a person fruits or vegetables with lots of seeds in them, for example. Can you eat vegetables that bring out a that raise your energy levels and bring out an anger response? So as a yogi, for example, I avoid garlic and onions. One, they make my mouth smell, but more importantly, they're essentially making my nature a little more aggressive. And as a yogi, that's not something that I look forward to. Ruth, I'm going to mute you. I'm hearing a little bit of noise, and you can please unmute yourself. Sorry about that. All right. So Ayurveda has a lot of information about the kinds of food we eat, the time of year we eat them, and food as medicine, as applied to an individual based on their overall lifestyle. I'm going to mute the other person. Also, there's a bunch of unmuting. Sorry about this. Okay, I think we got it. Okay, good. I'll move along. Okay, so that's Ayurveda. The next is of course a word you already know, which is yoga, but not just studio yoga or pretzel pose yoga. Yoga is actually a deep science of the mind, a deep philosophy, and a whole system of you could call it religion, but it's a whole system of spirituality, which is linking the lower self, the physical self, to the higher self. You might call the higher self God or the universe or whatever it is that you call that higher self in your religion. The thing is, we understand that our natural state is one of connection to the higher self. Like Maria was saying, that the divine light is illuminating our being and is radiating out of us. But we are unaware of that light. Why are we unaware of that light? Because this mind is crazy. It's always running. It's always chasing the next scheme. And what yoga does is trying to calm everything down. Just the way if you have a lake that has a lot of water, a lot of trees, and a lot of junk in it, you can't see the bottom. But you let the lake rest, and eventually the water will be clear and you can see all the way down. That's what yoga's project is, the calming of the ever-turning mind. And there's a lot of science that goes into it. This isn't just mumbo jumbo. I don't speak as a mumbo jumbo practitioner. In yoga, there's a deep understanding of the energy systems. For example, if you experience a heavy heart or a heavy stomach or a blocked mind, Those are all things that we understand through our understanding of the energy systems. If you've ever been prescribed uppers or downers by doctors, we have a deep understanding of what uppers and downers are, because we we know how the mechanism of the subtle body works. And I'll talk to you a little about that. But one of the foundational principles of yoga is shocha, cleanliness. There are, there's 10 foundational principles. One of them is shocha, cleanliness. And there's a lot that goes into the Hindu tradition in terms of ritual and personal cleanliness. Ridiculous amounts. I myself, I'm as a child, I used to be the eccentric. I guess I was born a yogi, so I was always the eccentric kid where I would wash my hands scrupulously. I didn't have OCD, I promise you, but I'd wash my hands to here, my feet, my legs all the way to my knees, my face all the time. No one could touch my food plate. If anyone touched my food plate with their icky, dirty hands, that food I'm not eating. Where did I inherit this from? You could say OCD, but no, there's a whole system. In fact, my own grandmother, my mother's mother, her entire life, she would bathe in the morning. She would bathe 3 times a day, and she would cook after bathing. She's cleaned up, and if anyone touched her, she'd go bathe again, because ritual purity is very important to her. And so it's very deeply ingrained, and a lot of untouchability stuff that you hear, and a lot of Hindus are blamed for untouchability. My family practice untouchability mostly with me. I practice untouchability with other people. There's a lot of understanding of ritual cleanliness, and even within the family, if I touch my grandmom after she's had her shower and she's about to cook, then she's going to go back and shower. And that's just the way our understanding of cleanliness works. In the last 2 years of COVID, we've all gained an understanding of what it means to be clean. Imagine over thousands of years in a tropical climate which is filled with mosquitoes and diseases. How do you ensure the survival of your species? By keeping clean. And those are baked into the rituals and traditions in Hinduism. So there's a lot of understanding of that. Sorry, I skipped slides. So ritual and cleanliness, there's a big deal in the Hindu tradition. I'm going to keep moving on. The next is the understanding of the breath itself, and the fact that the breath is a carrier of messages to the subconscious. Your heart rate responds to your breath. It cannot respond to your direction. You can't tell your heart rate to go faster or slower. You cannot tell your digestion to move faster or slower. But by the regulation of breath, you can actually control or direct the autonomous nervous system, which is to say, do you remember the uppers and downers? There's a natural fight or flight response that bodies have. And there's also an opposing or the other response, which is a rest and digest response. Remember how after a big Thanksgiving meal you feel like sleeping? That's rest and digest, because you want the energy to go into your stomach for digestion and not all over the body. There's a very deep understanding of this inner wiring of the body in the Hindu tradition, and we call it, and the science of pranayama, the breath, the how to breathe properly and how to regulate your breath is very important, because breath is one direct way of controlling not just the inner working of the body, like the heart rate and digestion, but also your mind. You can't calm the mind if your breath is shallow. Now, you remember, we also usually know the reverse of that, which is our mind is racing and our breath is shallow. You can go the other way as well. There's a deep understanding of breath and our relationship with our breath in the Hindu and yoga traditions. And pranayama is taught and practiced very deeply over thousands of years to control the autonomous nervous system. I'm going to keep moving. I got a lot more content. The objective of yoga eventually is to reach, the penultimate objective is to reach the state of dhyan, which is a relaxed alertness of the mind, like a clear lake. And when the mind is calm, reality reveals itself. Because as I skipped saying a few slides ago, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. If our inner state is angry, everything appears to be angry with us. If your inner state is calm, everything appears clear. the true reality that the yogis are interested in seeing cannot be perceived with a mind that is filled with anxiety or racing thoughts. And so calming the mind is very important. I want to call your attention specifically to this word over here, which is relaxed alertness. This is a core. You remember I talked about uppers and downers? The objective in yoga is to get to a state where both are in control. Your foot is neither on the accelerator nor on the brake, but just enough ready to tap whatever needs to be tapped. Why this state? Because it turns out the modern world, why are there so many lifestyle diseases? Let me come to that. It's simply because instead of being in a state of relaxed alertness, imagine having your foot on the accelerator all the time. All the time. Is it a surprise that we keep running into things? No, that's just how it works. We're always rushing out. Our mind is rushing out. What's the antidote? Not to drive like I do, which is accelerate, brake, accelerate, brake. That's a ridiculous way of living, right? You want to be in a place where you're calm, you're accelerating just when you need to and braking when you need to, but not lead footing either of those. That's the objective of the entire system of yoga, which is to get to a place of relaxed alertness. Now, in life, and I won't get into it today, but a lot of our religious practices are also based on this. We take too much on ourselves. Remember how a lot of psychosomatic, a lot of you might be feeling body pain. Those muscles are sore because they're tight. Why are they tight? They're tight because you're stressed about something and your body is holding in the stress by keeping that muscle tight all the time. How do you relax it? You become aware, and through yoga therapy, and there's a lot of yoga therapists that you can talk to, you can actually learn to relax the body, and then the body reverts to, remember what I said, its natural state, which is where we want to be. I'll keep moving. Now, loneliness is a sign of our times, which is we're separated. We're separated from our friends. We're separated from our communities. We're separated from our families, and we are separated from ourselves. It is the problem du jour. Every society has this problem, and it's tearing apart the fabric of society. And now I want to talk to you about what we're doing in the Hindu community to solve this problem. The first is, and here I'm going to warn you, this is one of my crackpot theories, so your mileage varies. You can be completely skeptical, but here's the way I think about the world. I think of society, a well-functioning society, as air conditioning for the emotional self. What does that mean? What it means is you want to be in a comfortable range of being between 66 and 74 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Any warmer, you're kind of upset. In your emotional state, if you're happy, you're off the chart happy, and when you're sad, you're below the chart sad. Who wants to live a life which is buffeted between extreme happiness and extreme sadness every 2 hours of the day? That's ridiculous. The function of a society is to maintain us in a comfortable emotional state. Now, that's my crackpot theory. But the reason I say this is that's literally the definition for the Sanskrit word, which we usually translate into English as religion. But in fact, religion itself comes from the same source. Religare means to join together. Dharma means to join together as well. That which sustains society, the social glue that binds us, is dharma. That's our definition of society and dharma. And the problem that we feel is that that glue is coming apart. We just talked about loneliness. We talked about all the lifestyle diseases. We are coming unglued from ourselves, from our families, from our communities. So how do you fix that? Humpty Dumpty, could not be put together because Humpty Dumpty fell down. How do you uncrack this society? What we're doing in the Hindu,
recording has stopped.
Oh, you stopped recording. We can record again. Okay, I'm going to begin recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, we'll keep rolling. So we use the principle of karma yoga, and I'm going to talk about it for a couple of seconds, and we'll move on. One of the paths to God is selfless service. Karma yoga is selfless service. it turns out that as human beings, we are born to serve. We're a social species, and even the species before us, monkeys, spend hours grooming each other, taking nits out of each other's hair and eating them. Serving each other is a core part of society. It's a core part of our wiring as humanity. But similar to how we are born to walk. We are a bipedal species. We stand upright, but our parents have to teach us to walk. It's the same with selfless service. We must be taught to serve, and every good society must teach its citizen to serve. What we're doing in the Hindu community is we've created a series of programs, but before that, a word from our sponsors. Please pull your phone out just like this, point the camera at the screen. You're going to see this QR code. This QR code takes you to a yoga sign up. We do free yoga classes. We've done, we do 49 free yoga classes every week. We do about 5 to 7 classes every day, 5 to 6 classes every day, whatever the number is. Lots of classes every day, and 7 classes every day. And over the last year, since COVID began, we have delivered about 2,400 classes. 50 teachers participate in this. The classes are entirely free, and all of us do it as a labor of love. So I encourage you, and I can pull this link back up later. So what we're doing in the Hindu Community Institute is we've created a new model of spiritual care. All the things I've talked about, but using the principle of selfless service to go out and serve other people and help restore the air conditioning around the emotional self, restore a sense of community, restore a sense of balance, and restore our own state of being in our own nature. Now, what that does is this Counselor of Hindu Tradition course, actually, let me see if I got this, did I miss a slide? I missed a slide somewhere. Anyway, is actually our pathway to chaplaincy. So people come in, we teach this course. It's a 9-month course, and it starts on Sundays and so on. And we've run 3 years of this course. About 70 people have graduated from this course. And they can now do an interfaith chaplaincy at GTU in Berkeley, and then sign up to become chaplains, Hindu chaplains. So the chaplaincy we teach is founded on dharmic, or sort of our principles, which are very different from Abrahamic religions. So we had a tough time sending people through chaplaincy previously. But by doing our course, the Counselor of Hindu Tradition course, and doing interreligious chaplaincy, people can actually become Hindu chaplains. And our goal is now to have 108 chaplains over the next 5 years, Hindu chaplains that are serving in the community. So that's the full talk that I wanted to cover about, which deals with how our community approaches the issue of health. I'm going to stop here and see if there are questions or comments. Questions or comments?
Yeah, Gaurav, thank you. You covered so much information. It was really good. Thank you. As you were speaking, I was recalling something I saw on TV. They were interviewing some young people with Vice President Harris being in Guatemala. They were interviewing some young boys, and they were like 10 or 11 years old, but they physically looked like they were maybe 6 or 7 years old, 4 or 5 years old, very young. And as the reporter spoke to them, they realized that he had mentioned that they had never tasted meat in their whole life. Their nutrition was just not something they could even begin to talk about and think about. And it's, you were speaking about how much our nutrition and our life, leads into our faiths and into how we express ourselves in society. And it really is true. Just a very interesting talk, and the thoughts of how, tied into what Maria had talked about early with Mother Teresa, that one thing we can do to help people is to help them with the nutritional parts of their lives and get that straight, and hopefully that will lead into their progression in other areas of their life. So thank you for that very interesting talk and the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for reminding me of something that I should have mentioned earlier. Vegetarianism is very common in India. In fact, if you look at the malnutrition kids from India, myself included, I've never tasted meat in my life. I'm vegetarian from birth. My family is vegetarian, and I have never eaten meat. I've never had the taste for meat. I don't know what it tastes like, and I don't want to find out. It turns out I'm doing fine health wise. It is possible to eat meatless food and do well sort of health wise, but you just need to know how to cook good food, which the Indian people figured out how to cook good vegetarian food.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
guess I should have said too, it wasn't the fact that they were, the problem was that they could not get nutritious food,
exactly, yeah, yeah,
whether you're vegetarian or a meat eater, but it was the fact that, they just did not have access to good nutritional food.
yeah, yeah. And I am often accused of over cramming my talks with nutritional content. I apologize now, not in advance, but at the end of my talk. Maybe I covered too much ground, so I apologize already. Sorry, Ramona,
Gaurav, do
you
you
have
have a
a
question?
Ramona has a hand raised. Yes,
Thank you. Gaurav, is that correct?
that's good. Yeah,
Did I understand you correctly when you said that you offer your oblations to a deity? Okay. I'm not. I have no idea about the Hindu deities or anything like that.
sure.
So, would you mind clarifying that just a little bit, please?
Sure, yeah. That's a great question, Ramona. Thank you. So, in the Hindu tradition, there are different sort of sects, you could call it, but one of the sects which is where my family is from. We offer food to the deity. Now, the deity happens to be an image. It does not need to be an image. The point is to offer to the source of all being, and so the way we do this is the food is made. It's made again. You have to be bathed and showered when you cook. The ingredients have to be clean and fresh, and the food has to be again food that brings you calmness. So there are types of food. There are types of food. For example, sour food has a certain tendency. Bitter food has another tendency. Spicy food has another tendency, and food with fats, so milk fats, for example, has another tendency. So sweet and so on. So this food has to be that which brings a calming property to the mind. So it's called sattvic food. And so you prepare it having showered, then you offer it to God. And essentially, the offering to the God is to say that it's a ritual. You offer it to God, and then you consume it yourself. But now, as an offering that has this is the leftover of the offering in that sense. So there's the ritual significance is it's offered to God first. The spiritual significance is recognizing that that the source of being, all of this, is the source of all energy. And then as you consume food, it goes back into the universe. All the work we do, every action we do must be dedicated back to the well-being of all creatures in this universe. So that's the spiritual meaning underlying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, Maria.
Maria?
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of comments. Thank you for that great talk. One thing about cleanliness, the mother of nursing, Florence Nightingale, how she practiced was essentially cleanliness in her patients' rooms, clean air, clean clothes, clean food. And when I talk about health inequities, some of the neighborhoods don't have clean air. They're subjected to, to pollution, right? And so it's really, I shouldn't be astounded by it, but it does make a world of sense to me that we're, again, we're different faiths, but we approach these things, our practice of faith just different ways, which is great because we're such a diverse world, and we come from different, styles, and that's great because, that's what God has made us into. There's no one like you. And I think that's just amazing, right? And just because that, we have different ways we practice our faith. So going back again to health, cleanliness is a big deal. And yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Breathing is a big thing too. It's kind of like, nowadays you're kind of aware of it because, if you wear the Apple Watch, it tells you to breathe, right? Oh, I don't have time to breathe right now. I'm in the middle of something, right? But breathing really, when you say, it centers you and it regulates the autonomic nervous system, that, it just helps calm you down. So in those moments of stress, I find myself actually practicing it so much nowadays. It's not, I just do it. I don't even say, okay, I got to break. No, when I feel, even when I'm watching a ball game or something else, I'm a big Giants fan, and when they're losing, it's kind of stressed out. But I start breathe through the nose and out through the mouth, So when you're kind of aware that what it does for you, it just helps you. So
I agree.
I'm beginning to be a big proponent of breathing, and it's even though it's kind of like new because I got this Apple Watch telling me please breathe every hour, for just a minute. But even a minute, it helps, right? Even a minute helps. But thank you for bringing up this thing. I really enjoy listening about this because, again, different faiths, we practice different ways, but, the concepts, the principles, the way we have our relationship to God is great because we're just, there's different ways of doing it. And I love learning about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, this someone asked in the chat, this meeting is being recorded, and Kamesh will put the recording on our Interfaith Interconnect.
I think Tamara has a comment question.
Yeah, I just sort of wanted to tag on to what Maria was saying and follow on because I'm Buddhist, and what I really see the parallels in what you're saying to a lot of how we view the universe and our relationship to it. And the idea that everything is interconnected, that's like a central point in my practice, that everything is interconnected. There's no real separation. So like you were talking about, this becomes part of the body. And even though that aspect isn't something that we talk about, but I really feel that connection that people bring, as well as your mind and your body are all aspects of your life, and how to bring out those qualities that make you able to feel peace or feel health, develop that life, we call it life force, to really overcome those kinds of illnesses. So I really appreciated what you had to say because I love it when I really noticed that in what everybody's saying is that in different, the two meetings I've been at, there's so much overlap in just with a slightly different, seasoning on it. So yeah, that was great.
I think, is it Deval?
It's Marcia, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Good presentation, folks. Gaurav, nice to see you again. The question I had was with respect to pranayam. There are some folks who believe that we as human beings have a number of total breaths in our life, whatever it may be, billion or whatever, right? What is your thoughts on that? And that you should try to breathe deeper because it helps in many ways, including the fact that you have a fixed number of breaths. Is that really true in your perception, or that's not really true?
Yeah, so that's usually a lot of this is multiplying, looking at creatures like rabbits have, very shallow and frequent breaths and, of course, short lives. So you sort of draw a chart of, what their average breath rate is and what their lifespan is. You might draw a conclusion. I don't necessarily buy into it, and certainly as a yogi, interestingly, yogis go both ways and probably do it the same, which is we want to have longer breaths. But we also want to have very shallow breaths at certain times. So the objective of pranayama, again, too much detail for this, our meditative state. In the meditative state, you're actually not breathing, you're just sipping the air just at the tip of the nose. But to get there, you have to have really deep breath. So when we teach pranayama, I teach deep breathing. But the objective of that deep breathing is to get to a state where when the breath is calm, the mind will be calm. We're trying to get to that calm mind. And the path to that is through the breath. So I hope that answers. Reena, you have a question?
Thank you.
Yes, in my experience of ever taking any yoga class at the Department of Recreation and Parks or wherever you are, the teachers do not appear to be Hindu or Indian, although they're calling themselves yogis, and we go into the importance of breath and and the postures and the exercises and how these help your health. How do you feel about these teachers not being practitioners of your faith?
Sure, yeah. So, then I'm going to give you a sort of Bill Clinton-esque definition of, which is, depends on what your definition of is, which is our faith is actually being that we don't have entry gates and exit gates. You can be a member of our faith by trying to understand life, and once your answers, you approach life with a sort of that frame of mind, you have bought into the Hindu line of thinking in that sense. So because we don't have sharp boundaries to come in and get out, we don't think anyone can become a Hindu. You just recognize your own. So that our own name for our religion is Sanatan Dharma, which is the timeless faith, which is it's outside of time, and in that sense it's not invented but discovered. And to the extent you're interested in a process of discovery, then you're discovering the same truths that we are. So welcome to the group, so to speak. How do I feel about non-Indian, non-Hindu sort of practitioners teaching and practicing? I love the idea of non-Hindu people practicing. My only concern about that is the wrong people. Indians in general are not articulate. I'm sorry to say this about my people, but we're not articulate. We're not very great proponents of our truths. And because we are inarticulate, better, more articulate people can come in, learn, and teach it. More power to them. My only concern is every once in a while, a madman comes along, takes our words, takes our physics, takes our sort of spiritual understanding, and makes nonsense out of it. I'll give you a few examples. If I tell you the word pundit, what are you thinking? You're thinking guy sitting on TV, bloviating, just offering some nonsense commentary. That's a pundit, right? If I give you the word guru, you're thinking, I don't know, a guy who's misleading people. I don't know, love guru, sex guru. If I give you the word swastik, you're thinking madman subjecting people to concentration camps. Those are all Sanskrit words. They mean a lot to me and my people. But some guy comes in, steals our words, and makes a whole nonsense sort of philosophy out of it, and we've lost it. How about the word Arya? You think Aryan, you're thinking skinheads, again doing bad things. Arya is the term of highest veneration in our tradition. We refer to each other by that as, oh, noble one. That's how we would call it. Now, some guy comes along, invents his own theory, steals a word, and now I can't have my word back. So how do I feel about that? I feel really mad because it took thousands of years for this understanding to develop, and then it takes 20 years for a madman to steal it and give it a bad name. And at this point, we're only trying to reclaim our words back, please. So I feel good about people trying to learn and understand and practice. There's no problem with it. I'm only concerned about the madman. And I can't do anything about it. But since you asked, I shared.